everyone. I'm going to call it 7 o'clock, even if it's not. I just want to welcome everyone to the Delano Area Chamber of Commerce's Meet the Candidates series. Some of you I've seen before, and you've seen me before, so I appreciate your returning, including some of the gentlemen up here. So tonight we're going to be talking with our District 5 County Commissioner candidates as we go through and try to determine who we all want to vote for. We can't vote for all four, I'm sorry. But we can pick a couple, so the top two vote getters will be the ones who will be on the ballot. So the format tonight will include candidate introductions. Trucks need to leave. Chamber prepared questions, and yes, I did not write all the questions myself. I had help. I'm not going to take all the heat, Gabe, and Josh and Jack. And so the audience members will have a chance to come up and ask some questions as well, and then we'll have concluding remarks. Now, the one thing I want to just kind of give you a little heads up on the personal questions. I think most of you are wonderful, lovely citizens, and you behave correctly, but just so anyone's got a little ideas here. No personal attacks will be allowed, and I will shut the microphone off if I feel like that's happening. No endorsements will be made by the Chamber of Commerce at the conclusion of the event. We anticipate we'll be all done by 9 o'clock, and the candidates are encouraged to stick around and mingle if the opportunity presents itself. Each of the candidates, I think for the most part, have materials on the back tables as well, so you might want to be able to check those out afterwards. And the candidates will be provided the opportunity to answer questions by the audience as well as the moderator. But I get to be the judge and jury on your questions, so I know you'll be proper. Now, let's begin with the introductions. We have 4 candidates competing for the largest number of votes on the August 11th primary, and the top 2 will advance to the general election. You'll each have 2 minutes to share who you are and why you're running for the 5th District County Commissioner. All right? We are going to start with Dan Vick.
Hello, everybody. I am Dan Vick. I'm 57.
Oh, sorry. Let me stop you for a quick second. How did I jump over this? I did. So my cohort in crime up here tonight is Josh Galen from Minnesota Lakes Bank, and he is the timer. So he'll hold up these little colorful cards to let you know when you're getting close to the end of your time. Right? 30 seconds to go. Time means finish your sentence. Okay. So you'll start, in this case, with your 2 minutes. He'll tell you when you're at 30 seconds, and then he'll tell you when it's up. All right? So we'll go ahead and begin with the introductions.
All right. I'm Dan Vick. I'm 57, pretty much a lifetime resident of Delano. I was raised, my family here, and both my parents are buried here, so I still have a connection to Delano. I now live in Howard Lake and have for about 3 years. I did notice that, or first I'd like to say I coached girls softball for a couple years, took 2 state championships, and a run-up. Championship run-up. I was on the city council for 4 years here in Delano, so I did want to say experience does matter, and where I spearheaded, this very building we're in was going to be destroyed, and I was one of the main voices that spoke up for it to keep it. Also, I had street assessments that I fought for 2 years by myself as a 4-1 thing, where it is the current policy now, until Jack was elected to it, and the 2 of us took that, and we do not have street assessments in Delano because of that. Also, with our building official, I moved that we shared them with Watertown and saved Delano a lot of money. So, as that, I also did very many other things too when I was on the council, so I have a lot of experience on the council. Plus, I currently serve on the Board of Adjustments for about 3 years now, and where I bring common sense and a very conservative values. Thank you very much. I didn't even get the time out of it.
Okay, Mike.
Hello, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Mike Ketchmark, and I'm running to be your next Wright County Commissioner, and thanks for everyone that's listening on KRWC also. Little background on the Commissioner's position because it comes up. It hasn't changed in 8 years. Current Commissioner is retiring, so you're going to get a new one whether you want one or not. The Commissioners are made up of 5 in Wright County. This similar setup to a City Council. District 5 to cover the area, just so you know, is the cities between Delano and Cokato, the townships on either side of Highway 12, and it stretches up northwest to French Lake Township. Requirements to be a commissioner, 18 years of age, live in the area for at least 30 days, and pay a filing fee. There's also an oath that's important to know that the commissioners take, which says that they will uphold and support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota, and they will discharge dutifully all the duties that are required as commissioner. So important to note. People ask, Mike, what are the duties for a commissioner? Well, they include county budgeting, keeping affordable quality resources, keeping the taxes low, monitoring department heads. One commissioner recently said he was on over 20 committees, so there's a lot involved. Being a liaison between the townships and the cities. Background and experience for me, born and raised in District 5, currently live in Woodland Township with my wife Felicia. We belong to the same area as the Jehovah Church, Franklin Township. Been a deputy sheriff 27 years in Wright County, resolving problems in the cities, townships with residents, farmers, and business owners. So I look forward to serving the citizens a different way. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Mike. Jason?
Sure. My name is Jason Franzen. I currently serve on the Delano City Council and have served, it'll be 6 years in November. I was born out here. I was born in Watertown when they had a hospital. A lot of people don't know that, but they did have a hospital up until probably the 70s or early 80s. My family is from the area. My mother is a Gabralsic, and they have lived here since the 1870s and helped farm and build this community in the Franklin Township, as well as the city of Delano. My father's family is also from out here, and they farmed and worked in the area all the way before the Civil War. And actually, I have a great-great-grandfather that actually fought in the Civil War. So we have deep ties to this area, and it matters to me, the economic future for Wright County. I've been married for 16 years to my wife, Anna, who's here tonight. And I have 2 children, Philip, who is just turned 13, wearing his favorite John Deere hat, and my daughter, Sophie, who's 7, going on 8. She loves TikTok, she loves to dance, she loves to sing, she loves the swimming pool. It has a hole in it, we found out today. We have to fix that when we get home tomorrow, or tonight. Why am I running? I'm running for county commissioner because I'm concerned as a citizen about the profligate spending at county. I'm sure many others were no doubt taken aback at the 17.3% increase of the county levy, plus this year's increase of 9.3%. This has a real impact for our bottom lines, be it at home or at our businesses. Public spending by its nature is sterile and doesn't contribute to economic activity. At best, it can create a framework for economic activity, but overspending acts as a brake on it as well. In these past 6 years as one of Delano's council members, I have had a positive reputation for moderating budget growth, setting aside money for larger future outlays, being pro-growth in our tax base, and try to have bond issues expire before considering new ones. I want to continue this legacy as your next county commissioner, one who is fiscally responsible, brings definable experience to the job in November, and has a business development strategy at a responsible cost. I ask for your vote in the primary in a couple weeks, and vote for experience, because
All right.
it does matter.
Thank you, Jason. All right, Dan.
Good evening. My name is Dan Bravender. I live in Cokato, Minnesota. 49 years ago, I was a sophomore in high school. My parents decided to buy a farm north of Howard Lake. Relocating from St. Louis Park to a farm where the nearest town was 8 miles away was a little bit of a shock. However, looking back, this is a pivotal point in my life for the good. 2 years later, after moving, I met my wife Becky at a Bible study, and we've now been married 45 years. Becky and I have raised 4 children here in Wright County. They are all married and have blessed us with 15 grandchildren. Being a small business owner of a trucking company and now a small farm grocery store for 31 years has caused me to pay attention, close attention, to the people of our community and what desires and concerns they have as residents. 18 years ago, I was elected as Cokato Township Board Supervisor, which I currently serve. Over time, I became more familiar with the various county boards as I and other board members were advocating for our township residents at county board meetings. 5 years ago, I was appointed by the Board of Commissioners to fill a vacant seat on the Wright County Planning Commission, as well as the Great River Regional Library Board of Trustees. When this forum is over tonight, you should have a good idea of how I will represent the residents of District 5 in Wright County as your next commissioner.
All of you? Oh, okay, great. All right, so as Dan mentioned, and I want to make sure that I'm clear with, so tonight, you're learning about these 4 candidates, and the primary on the 11th is when you'll cast your ballots, and the top 2 vote getters will then go on the ballot for the general election. So in case that wasn't clear, I just wanted to make sure that we cleared that up. All right? All right, so we'll go ahead with our prepared questions, and although, Dan, you just got through speaking, we're going to start with you again and work our way down, and then Jason will get the first question, and Mike, and then Dan. So everyone will get a chance to be first for each of the questions. So question number 1 is, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing the county?
Right now, I see the most pressing issue as the tax hikes. They have been, 17% one year, 9.3% this year. It's going to be tough when we come into this year with a downturn in our economy. Is this working?
Kind of.
Is this one working?
Now that one's working.
Okay, we'll try this. With the downturn in our economy, on our township board, we are currently talking about a 10% reduction that's possible for us by the end of this year. And I believe as a county, we need to seriously look at that because that may be facing us in the end of this year with the beginning of 2021.
Okay, very good, thank you. Jason, same question. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing the county? And I didn't mention this, but we'll give you a minute for each of these questions. They're intended to be relatively short, so, okay.
Well, I would say certainly overspending in county, to be sure. Is it working? Not working. Should I try that thing down? Is it working? There we go. Okay, so to repeat and to start over. Okay, I think that the most pressing issue is kind of a twofold thing. Things that were not anticipated, which of course is COVID-19 and how it's going to be affecting the economic environment and tax receipts and spending in the county. We've had obviously an ongoing issue in county with overspending. They make noises about that they want to be fiscal conservatives, but the votes matter in the end. They do matter. And now we've been put into a hole to a certain extent by the overspending with this new county building that was agreed to last year. And unfortunately, we're in a recession or going into recession that was already starting before COVID-19 and now is going to be exacerbated by it. That's, I see, as the biggest issue.
All right, thank you, Jason. Mike, same question. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing the county?
Well, taxes, and along with that is how we're going to recover as the county with all the unemployment and things related to COVID. We have to make sure we're regulating the taxes. And I'm not bringing a particular agenda. I'm looking for expectations from the citizens. And what I'm hearing is the land classifications and values that apply to the taxation is a big concern. And that will weigh into how much people are taxed. So we have to make sure that we have a good procedure for that and what I would call a protest process. If people aren't happy with that, that they can take that to the next step to arbitrate and mediate their case. But we have to get a grip on the spending, which they built all the buildings I think we can build, so I think now we just have to kind of be status quo and try and, it's hard to cut taxes, but keep them low. That's one of the duties of the commissioner. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. Dan, Vic, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing the county?
I'll bring it up too, the taxes, the people's money. In the future, we need to run lean and mean and be able to withstand so that we are able to withstand downturns in the economy. As when I was here, I always tried to spend nothing. I mean, you need to run the government, but try to spend as little as possible. And by bringing up things of sharing with other communities, we were able to do that in Delano. I'd like to emphasize that a little bit more, like with our fire trucks and stuff, similar to the police department, try to get all that shared resources with all the communities. And I think that would be a real good way to cut taxes for everyone by sharing resources. So I would push for that a lot hard. Thank you. When you get that
All right.
30 seconds, it makes you kind of,
Yeah, it is a little unnerving, but
Yeah,
you guys are doing a great job. So
Hurry up.
that's great. All right, so the second question is really a personal question, all right? And so we'll start with you, Jason. What is your motivation for running for this position? Your personal motivation.
For me, it's a simple thing. It's public service. I think that in our country, we see a withdrawal from society, from volunteering, from fraternal groups. Anybody that lives in Delano knows that it's been hard to recruit members for the Lions or the JCs or Snowstormers or something like this. I think that public service is very important, be it at church or non-sectarian groups. I'm a member of the Delano Lions, a member of Snowstormers, and son of the American Legion. And I think that public service, and as indicated in my past, is important because in the end, it reflects a responsibility by the citizens to make things better, but not depending on your government to do it for you. But when you have citizens volunteering their time, it's more answerable to the effects and the results. And that's why I'm running public service. Public service.
All right, very good, Jason. Mike, same question. What is your personal motivation for running?
Well, it's a great opportunity, and like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't come up very often. It's been 8 years now, it's a 4-year term. But it's an opportunity to serve the people in the district in a different way after 27 years of dealing with life-altering decisions and choices and helping the people. And I see there's advantages here that you're the voice of one, you have other commissioners, you can, for 27 years I haven't been able to hit pause and time out and make quick decisions, but that's given me the people skills and the philosophy to be a good listener, be a good listening ear, and a voice for the people in District 5. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Dan, Vic, what's your personal motivation?
well, I would say it's problem solving. I love to solve problems. I think I've been really good at it through my career in construction. That just seems to come natural to me, and I get really good feeling when I can solve problems, and I think I can do a very good job to solve a lot of the problems that Wright County is facing. So I gotta stick with problem solving. Thank you.
All right, very good, thanks. And Dan, what's your personal motivation for running?
My personal motivation is local government. I have always been supportive and had a passion for local government. And for 20 years, I've been involved in it and seen the benefit of how residents can be represented at the county level. Also, I've had a lot of support and affirmation that I have the ability to communicate with other board members and convince them of my ideas. That didn't come from me, that came from other supporters of mine. So I decided to do this because I do have a passion for local government. I have nothing, no aspirations beyond this. This is where I want to be.
All right, very good. All right, so we'll start with Mike, and the third question then, Mike, is how will you balance your time before your current employment and your commissioner duties?
That's a good question, and it's hard to get the clear answer because I'm in a unique spot, having a full-time Wright County job now. What I do understand is that the policy doesn't allow for you to have two county positions. So it's going to start out, if I'm elected, that my county commissioner position is going to be my primary job. But I prepared for that financially, different scenarios, and with my wife, and I'm comfortable at whatever plays out. But initially, that's going to be the primary job, and I want to see how much time and effort's involved to get the job done before I go on and plan something else. Thank you.
All right, very good. So Dan Vick, how will you balance your time between your current profession and the commissioner role?
I will make the commissioner my full-time job. I'm in a unique position also. I have no bills. Everything I own is paid for, and it gives me a nice, I don't have to make much money to survive, and I feel good about that. My house is paid for, everything is paid for. And that's the way I like it, because without interest, it makes life a lot easier. So if you can keep things low down, it's great. So I'll make it a full-time job, and I'll be at the courthouse or at the county house all the time. If you need something, I'll be there to get contact. Thank you.
All right, very good, thanks. Dan, how are you going to balance your time between your current profession and this position?
Well, seeing that I am a store owner, independent businessman, we currently are in the process of having our children work their way into the business. It's a slow process, but we have started the first step, and if I do get elected commissioner, it will be an easy transition for them to move into the business and for me to fulfill the roles that are required of a county commissioner.
Okay, very good. Dan Vick, what life skills do you bring? Oops, sorry, did I skip you, Jason?
You didn't think I could fill the time? You've seen me before. I can fill the time, and then some.
Maybe that's what I'm worried about. Sorry, Jason,
Should I take-
I thought I
should I take a
started
whack
with
at
you.
it?
And yet, that's why I write these down.
No.
I'm very sorry, Jason Franzen. How will you balance your time
Sure.
between your current employment and
No
the
problem.
commissioner job?
Sure. Well, the role of commissioner is something that has evolved over the years. And for so many years, and I remember talking to past commissioners about this, and county employees have described it, and to Lee Kelly and to others, and they've described it as something that was part-time, but the position has steadily increased in its requirement time-wise and responsibility. I strongly suspect that I will have to quit the current job I have that's in insurance, and obviously, of course, in December or November, if I win, God willing, I will have to give up, of course, the Delano City Council. I've been so happy to serve. I have considered that if there was time available that I'd spend time with my uncle Joe Naton, who farms south of here in Hollywood Township, and if there's spare time, I would love to spend time helping them in their farming endeavors.
Very good, thank you. I was waiting for the red truck to go by. They're the loud ones. All right, now, Mike, right? No, sorry, Dan Vick. I got to keep my notes here. What life skills do you bring to the table?
I've been self-employed business owner most of my life. I have worked for several businesses too. I think being self-employed, you wear many hats and are able to solve problems, and I think that's my biggest skills. And I'm a man of few words. Thank you. Just don't run out of time.
Keep us above schedule, aren't you? Good job, Dan.
Yes, get more answers, questions.
Very good. Other Daniel,
My life skills Started out in agriculture. I have an ag business degree. Agriculture was my passion for a long time until courses changed for our lives and we went into independent business. Agriculture still is a passion of mine. We have a small farm. We raise our own animals. We raise our own poultry. We sell them in our store. It really helps us to understand the skills that are needed to deal with the public. And these skills I have been able to use in the last 18 years that I've been in office, and I will carry that into the commissioner office.
Right, very good. I won't forget you this time, Jason, I promise. What life skills do you bring to the table?
Well, I would be remiss to not, when I look out to my wife and kids, that having been married 16 years and known my wife 17, 18 years, and having 2 children, and that I have my faith, and that I've served in public office. These are the things that skills that I've gained that I bring to, that will help me as a future county commissioner. As a father, as a husband, it's taught me patience. It's put a filter on me, too, as a council member, to recognize that in the end, you're representing others, not yourself. And lastly, I mentioned faith and things, and it's taught me to look outward and look up, but not to look inward and to get off oneself and things. These things have helped me and will help me as a future county commissioner.
Very good, thank you. And Mike, what life skills do you bring to the table?
Well, I think a lot of this job is personality and being able to deliver the message. Sometimes it isn't the most favorable message, but I have almost 30 years in interacting with the public in all different situations that requires you to be good at delivering and presenting the issue. And I like to say, you might not like the answer, but as long as you understand it, sometimes that's the best that you can hope for. But if you heard that phrase before, you have to sell the ticket. I've had to sell tickets and cars getting towed and people getting arrested, and you're really able to hone your skills because you're the voice of one out there, and you have sometimes several people. You have to present the decision and the solution to whatever the crisis is. So I'm looking forward to applying that to the commissioner's position with different types of problems in District 5. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, now, I'm sure you gents are all aware, there are many different committee appointments that could be asked of you to be involved in. And so my question would be, starting with Dan Bravender, what committee assignments interest you?
Number one would be planning and zoning.
Okay,
That committee appointment has been something that has been a passion of mine because at the core of my being is responsible private property rights. And I say responsible because it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to on your property. You always have to consider what your neighbors are doing and how close you are to them. We go through this every month on the Planning Commission. And I think that this solves a lot of disputes that arise when they understand that we treat property owners fairly, that we don't pick out property owners for saying you can't do this here, but you can do this here. They have to be treated fairly. However, when they come to me on the Planning Commission, they are the customer, and I want to say, how can I help you?
very good, thank you. All right. Jason, what committee appointments interest you?
Sure. Well, of course, the committee appointments vary a lot. Some of them meet quite often. Others meet monthly or quarterly or even every 6 months. So it's a mixed bag of how many you would get assigned to. And just because somebody has more doesn't mean they have more work to do. They try to balance it out. I think that issues that as relate to transportation are the ones, that's the one first out the door that I'm the most interested in. I think that's been one of my favorite issues for the Delano City Council, having served for a number of years on the Highway 12 Safety Coalition, being an active person and helping to bring positive change in light of to all the losses to our community for our young people and others. Having said that, things that affect public safety, certainly public health or health and human services, and I say that because those that know me and are familiar with my resume know that I've already served and continue to serve on the Public Health Task Force and have served on Health and Human Services. I say that because those areas actually take up a lot of the county money, and I think because I'm experienced with the area and the personnel that I can bring something to that to possibly reduce spending.
All right, thank you. And Mike, what committees are of interest to you?
Well, that's a twofold question. I think it's what's interesting to me and also what the public is interested in me being involved in District 5. So what I'm hearing, expectations are drainage of the county ditches. How is that going to be managed? And for those that don't live near a ditch, you think, oh, you know, what does that mean? Adopt a highway, pick up the ditches? But no, water is a big deal when you really get into discussion in District 5. Planning and zoning, some people want more development, some less. You have to balance that and be a voice for the people. The Highway 12 Coalition drove it, worked it for my whole life basically. So it's not only things that I'm familiar with for many years, which is public safety, that's kind of old hat. But for me, I'm looking forward to the challenges in dealing with the different problems that come up in District 5 and having experience of working with these boards, city councils, townships, right to the maintenance people in these cities and townships. I think I'll have a big advantage to work on that. Thank you.
Very good. All right, and Dan Vick, what committees are of interest to you?
Well, I follow in Mike there. I'm very interested in infrastructure, roads, drainage, ditches. I have a good eye for grading. I think in my construction background that really fits me well. I would always check drainage. I do home inspections also, and I look at the neighborhood, can tell if there's going to be an issue with the drainage in the property, because water is one of the biggest things for houses. But anyways, I use that experience on being a commissioner. So that's it. Thanks.
All right, very good. All right, question 6, we'll start with Jason. Jason, how would you build consensus with other commissioners or areas that you have to deal with?
Well, as a Delano City Councilman for 6 years, I've had to work with people of a broad set of interests, different goals, but in the end, trying to advance what's best for Delano. I can only assume that the other commissioners also want to advance what's best for the people of Wright County. Having said that, because I've had to obviously deal with other council members, and we don't always agree, but most of the time we do reach consensus. I do have a lot of experience with that. Having said that, the person that knows me knows that I'm self-effacing, that I'm always been approachable and friendly, and I think that I'm able to work with all the people that are up there. Having been a former teacher and who substitute taught in Minneapolis Public Schools, the first-tier suburbs, and even out here, I've dealt with a lot of different kinds of people and thrived. I think I can thrive at Wright County with the other commissioners.
All right, thank you. Mike, try to be specific. How would you build consensus with other commissioners and other stakeholders? How would you build consensus?
Well, I'd revert back to my past experience in dealing with every kind of personality you can imagine, and you get to learn to kind of study people and their personalities, and it's going to be the same group you're going to be working on meeting after meeting. So I understand there'll be a learning curve, and I'll be a junior commissioner, and there's maybe a seniority factor in there, but you have to be a good listener for starters to learn your audience and learn your partners and what their passion and interests are. And everybody isn't probably driven towards the same goals, but we all have to work together and help each other out. And I think being a good listener is also important to that, listening to all sides of the issue and then deciding. And that's what I've had to do for almost 30 years. Thank you.
All right, very good. Dan Vick, how would you build consensus?
Well, I think consensus is built by consistency. On the Board of Adjustments has been that's a really tough board to be, because somebody can't get something that they need a variance for. And there's so many different issues that come up, and you did this for him and you did that for them. And so consistently, I try to look at it as if there's something that shows that that person needs that variance. It's a very tough board to be on. Probably one of the hardest ones is what I was told, so, and I can see that, 'cause I go home and I think about it for a long time. There's 5 hours of reading, and there's 5 hours of meetings almost every month, so, but it's helped me a lot, so I like it. Thanks.
All right, very good. And Dan, how would you build consensus with other commissioners?
I have 3 points. The first one is to always bring the facts. Don't create anything that isn't there. Bring the facts. Second thing is to be consistent in my decision-making. And the third and most important is to have respect for every member on that board and treat them for the office that they have. Treat them with respect for the offices they have.
Very good. All right. Our 7th question, it's kind of a broad question, so handle it how you will. How do you see COVID-19 affecting the county currently or in future waves, whether it's a second wave or a third wave or whatever waves we have going on? So how do you see COVID-19 affecting the county? Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, it calls for a lot of speculation. I think experts getting paid a lot more than I am haven't always been right with it. So I would be out getting the feedback that I can from the supposed experts and taking that back if I would be chosen to be on that committee. But we have to also look out for Wright County, and sometimes what I've seen, what's going on now is boards and committees sitting back and saying, well, let's see what the governor's going to do. And to me, if I was a commissioner, I'd say, what are we going to do for our citizens? And a lot of it is left up to the individual businesses, but I'm not going to be heavy-handed to enact ordinances and rules and different things. If you want to go to a business and not wear a mask to buy a 2x4 and a bag of nails, then you go to another store where you don't have to wear a mask. But I would like to just have more of impact and influence than just allowing the state to come in and issue executive orders per se. Thank you.
All right. Dan Vick, how do you see COVID-19 now and down the road affecting the county?
Well, I think it has and will create a lot of division. It bothers me with that division, because I like everybody to have their individual freedom. And if you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine with me. If you want to wear a mask, that's fine with me too. I prefer not to, because I don't think all the facts are out there with masks. But other than that, I just think we need to get back to being friendly to one another and not so divisive. So I guess that's where I'd leave that.
All right, thank you. Dan?
Well, the first impact is economic, obvious. We have friends that are struggling with a restaurant right now, and other businesses that have closed. Zellist and Clutchinson just closed, and that was in the paper. So it's a serious thing economic-wise. Secondly, the way that it affects people. People require human interaction. That's how we're made up. So I think that the county has to do their job, especially on the boards, and this has frustrated me a lot. We need to be there for the people. We need to be in the boardroom making these decisions, not over a phone. So I'm hoping that that changes in the county. That will change the impact, I think, in the future. If it doesn't, I'm really afraid what happens. Thank you.
All right. Jason, I won't forget you.
Sure.
So how do you see COVID-19 affecting the county now and second and third waves, if there are?
Well, certainly to parrot my cohorts up here tonight, certainly economically is going to have it's having an impact and will continue to have an impact. At the same time, We cannot take the dictates from St. Paul just because they want something done. We need leadership. We need to recognize that we may have to have restrictions on our lives. We may have to do the needful and protect innocent people. Having said that, we cannot allow something like this to possibly destroy the economy in Minnesota and destroy the livelihood of people's businesses. I'm a middle-class American. It's been inconvenient. But if you're a working-class person, and there's thousands of them in Wright County, what can they do? They don't have the reserve. They don't have the big savings account and things like this. We need people to stand up and remind the governor, and I did that at Delano City Council over the microphone. I said, much like some other neighboring city councils, you need to end this thing and have reasonable restrictions.
All right, thank you. All right, so our 8th question is one of my questions. I apologize in advance. One of the very first sales training classes I've ever taken, and I've taken it many times and heard this so many times, I'm going to ask you guys now to be salesmen. What's your 30-second elevator speech as to why you? Why you? Why should we vote for you? Dan Vick?
Thanks for letting me go first on that.
You're welcome.
I think I would always bring a smile to the office. I think I'm a good listener. I don't go in with my mind made up. I'm pretty conservative, I will say that. I'm probably the most conservative here, but I like to hear everything out and try to weigh it out the best that I can. And I don't like to argue with the other members on the board. 'Cause you can't say you'll do anything because there's 5 members, and you try to just steer it one way. I think I was very successful when I was on the city council. I got a lot of stuff done. I don't mean to pat my own back, but if you go back and look at the records, I was a very busy council member, and I was successful a lot. As Phil Kern even mentioned when I left, he said, "You made me work harder than anybody else ever has." I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Dan, why you?
Why me? I'm a problem solver. I've been that way for quite a few years of my life. As I got older, I learned how to problem solve with other people, not putting my own ideas in front, but working with other people in those ideas. And I think that's been evident in the things that have been accomplished in our township. It's not me, it's because we have 3 board members. It's not the planning commission by myself, it's because of the 7 members on that board that we solve problems together, and I think that's my strength.
Thank you. Jason, why you?
Sure. Well, in the end, experience matters. We can hypothetically talk about things that we want to do. We can refer to things that happen on Highway 12. We can talk about economic development. We can talk about any number of these issues. When I answer these people, I answer this question, to me, experience matters. As somebody that served for 6 years on the Delano City Council, who's been very active on the Delano City Council, and probably doing more than I needed to do. And there wasn't necessarily some obligation to put the pedal to the metal on that type of participation, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. I have demonstrated success in my role, and also too, as a person who's been campaigning, I put a lot of hours into it. I work hard at it. I'm conscientious about this, and you can imagine that I will do that as well as your future county commissioner.
All right, thank you. Now, the next 40 questions.
I got to answer
I know,
that one.
sorry,
The
Mike.
next how many?
I know, I hoped somebody was going to catch that. No, I won't do that to you. Yes, Mike, why you?
Well, because the majority of the last 30 years, I've been interacting with the people and government in District 5, from county, township, and city, the residents, the business owners, and the farmers, at all levels of crisis and conflict. And that's a lot of experience over the whole scope of the district at whatever level, you name it. And I think that served me well, along with the people skills along the way that I've developed to interact with these people and make the best of sometimes not very pleasant situation. Thank you.
All right, very good. Question 9, Dan Bravender. What are your thoughts about an EDA, Economic Development Authority for the county?
What I had read about it from the beginning, it just had to deal with one building. And I was a little bit confused by that. I think that EDA, if it's going to work well with the cities, it could work. However, if it's going to be something that's duplicating what the cities are already doing, I would struggle with that. I would really struggle with it.
Okay, very good. Jason?
Well, from what I've understood from the newspapers, what's being described is that it's meant to be, hopefully this is not the entire reason, because then I don't favor it, but it's meant to be a vehicle to pass on properties of the county. And there's some buildings that are out there that would be for sale. If that's the whole reason, I'm not sure why there should be a permanent EDA, although it's speculated in the newspaper that actually would meet very intermittently. What it means for Delano is very different than what it means for Wright County. I do think that counties generically should probably have some kind of economic development authority, because in the end, counties, states, or cities and municipalities are competing with each other for economic development. If you don't have the best tools in place, the best personnel in place, we're going to get left behind. And we have a good record with Wright County Economic Development Partnership with Dwayne Northagen, who just retired, and we have a new person, and we've had a good record with trying to instill economic development and partnership between political jurisdictions as well as businesses in Wright County.
All right, very good, thanks. Mike, what are your thoughts about an EDA for the county?
Well, I applied my philosophy to get to the bottom as best I could on this issue, and I went to the source. I went to a commissioner that's up there trying to banter whether we should have this committee or not. And what I found out is that it could be used in the main purpose right now if they do it, but they seem a little hesitant to enact it. But they have more options to sell the 2 buildings up there, the old courthouse and the Pomida building, if they establish one of these committees. What's scaring some of the public is that if you have that committee, you also have the option of enacting some extra taxes on citizens. So you have to have the right people holding the reins if you're going to enact this, and it can be kind of a dual-edged deal. But I think if you got the right management up there, you could use it to the advantage for the 2 buildings, and then it can go away. It's an intermittent type committee. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Dan Vick, what are your thoughts about an EDA?
I haven't put a lot of thought into it, but I have thought that I would take some of the advice of the other commissioners too, before I'd want to say either way. I guess I got to leave it at that. I kind of agree with each of the other potential candidates here.
That sounded good.
Thank you. Yeah, watch what I call you.
All right, very good. So the next question, and we'll start with you, Jason. I did get everyone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Next question is, what is one thing you would change about the county? Right now, today, you get to be bewitched and you get to wiggle your nose or wave your magic wand and poof, you can change it. What is it and why? And we might give you an extra 30 seconds on this one because it's really a 2-parter.
I guess
Wait, Jason, I was just gonna say,
Please.
I can't believe I have stumped you with a question.
Give me a chance. I'm
Could it
rallying
be?
here. I'm rallying.
Sorry.
I think one of the things that I see, it's more of I hear it from a hearsay and secondhand, having a lot of township officers as friends, as acquaintances, and having gone to a lot of township meetings, even though I didn't need to do so, especially at Franklin Township, because they're our neighbors. One of the things that I felt like from hearing from township officers and especially from citizens is the sense that there's the sense that county government, perhaps not the commissioners, but staff at times can be these distant Olympian figures. They smile, they listen, they say they're going to do something, and it gets swept under the rug, proverbially. Some things are taken care of, but the thing that I hear the most from people when I've gone to township meetings and also campaigning is that they make big guns about they're going to do something, and nothing happens. And I think for me, coming into this without an agenda, without a person that's not doing business in the county, that I'm going to be that conscientious gadfly that will make people do things because it's their job, it's their professional responsibility.
All right, very good, thanks. So, Mike, same question. You get to wiggle your nose and change one thing in the county. What would it be and why?
Well, if I'm elected, that in itself is going to change the makeup of the board and bring a unique experience that's gone on for many years and being more approachable. When I'm out campaigning, even when I was working as a deputy, you'd talk about county and commissioner, and cities and townships would say, who is our commissioner? We never see him. Well, I'm out every day. I'm not afraid to walk into the maintenance building in the morning before the guys get in the grader and say, hey, what's going on? Or walking into a city hall or a township hall. I'm no stranger to the people, and I won't be when I'm commissioner. And that's how you kind of keep a pulse on what's going on in District 5, and you can bring that up to the county board, the rest of the board. But the listening ear that I have out there is that's not always happening. But that would be a change just by me coming into office as a commissioner. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. So Dan Vick, what's the one thing you want to wiggle your nose and change, and why?
You know, it's really tough to answer that because I really love this county. That's one of the reasons why I want to be the county commissioner. I would say I really, and we are independent, but I thank Jack and some of the past commissioners to keep us independent from the Met Council. That was one thing I'd really fight to keep us independent from that. So I guess I think a change, it would be stay with the way that we were. I think that makes us unique here in Wright County. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Dan Bravender, what's the one thing you'd change?
Large capital expenditures.
You had that answer ready to go.
Large capital expenditures need a process other than a board of 5 deciding how to spend millions of dollars on a 3-2 vote. The public needs a voice. And I'm not sure how that would happen. It takes a lot of work to research all this, but the public does need a voice. We tried to put the government center to a referendum vote, and we had the signatures. They chose not to go that route and contest it. They went around it and did a different way of financing it. That was wrong in my mind. That has to change. The public needs a voice on these large capital expenditures.
All right, very good. All right, next question, and this would be for Mike. Mike, what is the best characteristic of the Wright County, of Wright County right now, and how would you build on that?
Well, as far as the livability in Wright County, there's pretty much something for everybody. If you want more rural, you can go to a part of District 5. If you want more business, more neighborhoods, you can go to the east. And there's, in my campaigning, there's people that really like the change that you get when you drive across the county. Some people like to keep it that way. You work in the metro. I work part-time for Metro Transit. Some guys, when I work down there, their favorite part of the day is going to lunch down there. My favorite part of the day is getting back to my driveway in Woodland Township. And there's many others here that are probably making that drive to different areas, but there's something to be said in everything else that's going on in the world that we're right on the edge, and hopefully we can kind of keep it that way to where you can live in the world, but you don't necessarily want to be part of it in some cases. And we've got, I think, the best of a couple different ways to live out here. Thank you.
All right, very good. So Dan Vick, what's the best characteristic of Wright County, and how would you build on that?
I think we got a lot of natural characters, like lakes, rivers, things that are really nice here. And nice bedroom communities. Like Mike said, it's pretty much anything you want. I like the nice spot out there on Dutch Lake, nice and private. I lived in town all my life. I like that too. I like Wright County altogether. That's why I want to keep it like it is. I like it. That's it.
Okay,
Tough change. I don't change it.
all right, thanks very much. Dan Bravender?
I guess what I think of Wright County as being very supportive of is individual businesses and business ideas. On the west end of Delano, there's a sign that says we are open for business. And I pay attention to that every time I drive in because I want that to be a characteristic of Wright County. I want people to show that we are encouraging these small mom and pop businesses to pop up everywhere because this encourages and strengthens our economy.
All right, very good. Jason, what's the best characteristic of Wright County?
You know, as someone that's attended greater MSP meetings and Wright County Economic Development Partnership meetings and listened to them speak, and that you could see it, one of the things that they talked about that drove businesses to come to Wright County to expand and start business here, like we've seen at our industrial park in Delano, KLN Brands, also the expansion for landscape structures, is that we have a highly educated workforce. We have a high quality of life. We have people that are ready to work, and we have a county that is essentially a pro-business environment and things, which differs greatly to Hennepin County to the east. At the same time, I think that, you know, I think about the natural beauty too. When I was campaigning, I remember this 4 years ago, there's unique vistas that people don't think about. There's little gems there that you discover, and you have to drive through the back roads of the township to see it. And one of my favorite views is from Maryville Township, close to Buffalo, and you're on a high hill, and there's an extended valley, and I swear you can see 10 to 12 miles south towards Montrose and Waverly. It took my breath away. I was really surprised, and I started telling people about it.
Very good, thanks, guys. So that concludes the questions that we as a chamber group put together. So now I would entertain questions from the audience. So if there's anyone that has a question that they'd like to ask the individuals or all of them, for that matter, I would ask you to please just come up along this side, and I'll give you the opportunity to do that. Yeah, that's what I'd like you to do. We have to stay in front of the speaker so we don't get huge feedback. So if you would, please state your name and where you live.
My name is Kevin Dahlman, Cokato Township. My question is, do you currently support the special Wright County sales tax? And how will you vote when it comes up for renewal?
All right, so let's see. We'll go in this, try to stick to the same order. So Dan, Vic, you get to start.
Okay. I do not support that tax. I did not support the tax when they proposed it. I called Charlie and I complained to Charlie. I said, Charlie, come on. It gives Wright County just that little bit of edge over Hennepin County, and now and on the internet sales and everything else. I thought that was a tough tax to put on the small businesses and small sales. It hurt me bad, and I didn't like it. And I think it hurt a lot of other small businesses, so I did not like that tax, and I would vote no on to redo it.
All right, very good. Dan?
I would not support it when it
Okay.
comes back up. I know that I've heard this by several commissioners that it has brought them so much money from outside spending into our county. On the west side of Wright County, it does not, because we border Meeker County where they do not have that sales tax. So it hurts us over on that end of it. People go into the next county 3 miles away to shop.
Okay, very good. Jason?
Sure. I would say that if it comes up again, I would vote against it. I think that taxes like this are necessarily regressive They affect the business cycle the most. If you have large capital purchases, guess what? You're going to go somewhere else. If you can afford it, the drive, and you're going to spend $10,000 on a piece of equipment, or if you're a farmer and you're going to spend $500,000 on a piece of equipment, guess what? You're going to go somewhere else because it's worth your time to do it. So I think that it was a mistake to do it, and I think that if when I get elected in November, I hope that I would vote against it.
Very good. Mike, what's your thoughts?
Thanks for the question, Kevin. In my campaigning and asking people what their views and thoughts are, that nobody has said, hey, Mike, we think you should vote for the Wright County sales tax. But what I have found as I'm digging into more issues here, that there are some taxes in the county that are allegedly being paid on an honor system. So I think we have to look at the taxes we have already and make sure that they're working. If they're not, maybe we don't have them if everybody isn't paying that should. So I think look at what we have, not start something new. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Any other questions? Up here, please. And if anyone else would like to ask a question, you could come on up and get behind John. You're welcome.
December 17th, 2020, county passed the largest tax increase in the history of Wright County. Now, we all know the world changed, the state changed, the United States changed, the city changed, everybody changed since then. But you had almost a 10%, over 9, levy increase, and nothing is the same. I suggest to you, people don't have jobs. You brought it up. People don't have work. They don't have a future. They're never going back to work. Do you really think any of these buildings in Minneapolis, these companies are going to go back to them? If you do, you're lost. It's over. So, knowing that, now you're a commissioner. What are you going to do? You know what the word empathy is? What are you going to do? How are you going to try to help people? Because 90% of the people need help today and tomorrow and next month. What are you going to do to help these people? Because it's over, and it's never coming back. And none of us in our lifetime ever thought we would see this. But it's for real. It's not going to change. And Minneapolis is never coming back. No more. No Super Bowl, nothing. It's gone. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So,
Can you encapsulate that, Vicki?
can I translate that?
I speak English.
You do speak English. You speak a lot of English, John, and that's great. So we started with Dan last time, did we? Is that right? So we're going to come back and start with the other Dan. So what do you see, Dan, that as a county commissioner you could do to demonstrate and or show that empathy that would allow people to start to have a little more economic hope? How's that, John? He's not listening.
This is difficult. I think that as a county commissioner, I would bring some of my own values into the role. First of all, encourage people with what they have. Do our best, if they can, to work with family. That's the best way to solve problems like this. If they can't, and the county can help them out in that, a program would have to be developed to do that. What that would be, I have no idea. But I know several people that are in this position right now, and personally, we have done a lot of things to help them. That's where the important thing is, to encourage people in the county to help out their neighbors.
That kind of goes back to that service thing that one of you guys were talking about. I think it was Jason. So along that line, Jason, it's your turn to answer John Tackaberry.
I've necessarily take the long view on things. It helps a lot. I'm 50 years old only. There's others here that have seen economic downturns things that have happened that affect their lives. There's nobody here that probably remembers the Great Depression. Hopefully not. This is not the case that we're coming into. I certainly hope not. I hope it's merely a recession and a short one. As I've said before, I think that public service matters and that we need to be looking outward, not inward, looking to those that need help. For the Delano Senior Center, I've spent weeks delivering meals to those that are vulnerable populations in our part of the county. I think that for those that are suffering and struggling, we need to find our heart and help other people. And the other thing I would say too is that hard work matters, okay? Make the best of the opportunities that you have so that you can make a go of it. For those of that are business owners and things like this, and those that wonder if what, when you think about the stimulus that happens from Washington, D.C., from the state, there's real limits to this type of thing. Because in the end, you're taking money from one taxpayer and giving it to another. How far can that go before we bankrupt society? And if the county was to follow the state model, and especially the federal model, we'll definitely bankrupt the county. There's limits to these things. So we have to have wise budgeting. We have to look outward and help other people.
Very good, thanks. Mike?
Well, I go back to what I said earlier about being a good listening ear and a voice for the people. The board doesn't have all the answers and can't wave a wand and know what these businesses are thinking. So I would call like a town hall meeting, a group together of concerned business owners that are expecting or would like something from the board, and get ideas from them. And to keep in mind that we're a voice of one, but potentially 2 to 4 of the commissioners are going to remain the same. So it's not going to be all junior commissioners. You're going to have that experience up there, but you can bring the voice for your district and those that choose to participate in the process. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Mike. Dan?
Well, I've thought about this a long time ago too, and I started a preparedness store just because I wanted to educate people on be prepared for bad times too. And that was probably my main thing, or starting the store that I did in Delano, is I seen troubles coming. I could tell that we spend too much money. And you want to run lean and mean just for a downturn like this. And that's what I would do. I would make sure that we stop the crazy spending, because you never know when something's going to come up, like COVID-19, which just broke a lot of the nation there, with shut down the jobs. But that was what it was all about, is I wanted to educate and tell people, look into the future. Just have a little bit tucked aside, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. So I think that question hit me really well, because that's what I've done, and I'd keep doing that. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, Dan. Well, Mr. McDonald, Luke? Oh, sorry. Luke was ahead of you.
Of course, yeah.
Sing along.
I didn't know if he was just,
No, I do have a question. It's a softball, so don't worry about it. When I'm talking with folks on the street about the county commissioner's position, more often than not, I get sort of a blank look. I think that it's probably one elected position where it's the most difficult to get the issues and the messages and the things you want to communicate out to the public. State offices and federal offices regularly make the news, especially if it's a hot item. But when it comes to county commissioners and even the city council positions, it's a little more difficult to get a good public debate going in the public arena. And so if you accept the premise of that question, which you may not, do you have any ideas on how you might be able to improve the communication process to the general public?
too many of us just don't know what the heck's going on there. So,
That's a fair question, and they put the board minutes online, they put them in the paper. I don't know if they do Facebook or Instagram or any of that, but there's some positions that, and we have to face it, are just kind of less glamorous than others. And I think people, they elect who they trust to do the job, and then they kind of put it aside unless some big ticket item comes up that generates interest, like the new buildings that came up a couple years ago. But part of it is being the approachable and out in the community like I talked about earlier, and interacting with the public like I've done for a long time, and then they recognize, hey, that's Mike, he's a county commissioner, and they'll come up to you and interact. But if you're like the invisible man out there, then yeah, you don't bring a lot of attention to the position just by being out and about. Thank you.
okay, very good. So Dan?
Yeah, I think it's partly because county commissioner seems to be more township oriented, and, which is fine, but I'd like to see the townships, cities, and counties all work together, and I think that would be a little bit more aware of, the community would be more aware of what you do as a county commissioner, because, and I think we could run it more similar to the sheriff's department. I'd like to see our fire department, when they buy a truck, share it with St. Michael and the other spots, you know, because that's a big bite for a smaller community to take. And, so that was one thing I wanted to do, is was local control yet, but try to get it to be more of a shared resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
Cokato, the city of Cokato put up a new fire hall. The first time they voted on it, it failed. There was no communication with the residents. The second time, they spent close to a year having regular meetings with the residents, explaining to them the purpose, the design, the features, and that it wasn't a Taj Mahal, it was a basic fire hall. It passed by 80% of the votes. That's on my platform. Regularly, I will inform the constituents in 5th District through town meetings once a month at 3 different locations on the east, the central, and the west part of the district. And that is my commitment if I'm elected commissioner.
Very good. Thank you. Jason?
One of the things that I've learned running 4 years ago and over the years up to now as a candidate for county commissioner, one of the replete problems and concerns by towns and townships was that the commissioners would often not come unless asked for, and also that perhaps years would go by, and God forbid that they would wait until the election cycle for it. That's a travesty. The thing that I promised, and I've said to all the townships I've ever been to, I'll come as often as you need me to come. I'll come every 6 months. I'll make it a year. If you don't want to see me every 6 months, make it a year. If you want it more often, I'll do that too. I'm younger, I have the energy, I have the passion to do it. Okay, that's one of them, certainly. The other is you have 2 ears to hear and 1 mouth to speak. You should be listening. They should be listening. Because there's a lot of intelligent people out there and a lot of acquired and accumulated wisdom. I certainly know that from the Delano City Council, working with our mayor, who's his skill set, his experience, and I've learned a lot from him. As commissioners, we don't have all the answers, but we better be able to listen, and sometimes listen to our betters. In Delano, when I look at planning and zoning, so many of them have a skill set that definitely exceeds us, for many of us, and we go to them for things like this. Open communication, open your ears, talk less.
All right, very good. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. And Luke, thank you for butting in line. Gave me an opportunity to articulate my question better. So, well, gentlemen, congratulations on your willingness to participate and run. I've had the privilege of working with Charlie Burrell for the last 10 years in service. I'm the state representative, some of you didn't know, for the last 10 years. And it is a privilege to serve Wright County. I'm very proud to be from Wright County. Wright County is a great county. And all of us down at the Capitol, Senator Anderson, Senator Kiffmeyer, Representative Eric Lucero, Representative Marion O'Neill, often will brag about our Wright County, that we are in the Wright County for all the good reasons. We're also one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Minnesota. And with that comes a lot of pain, right? A lot of growth, a lot of cost. So my question to you tonight, gentlemen, is with the growth that we're going to continue to experience in Wright County, are you willing to perhaps increase a levy if necessary? And or if you are willing to do that, what areas of the budget do you think that you can see that could be cut if necessary? You know, we have transportation, health and human services, the salary, a lot of employees. Do you see anywhere in the budget in your homework that could be cut? And if it comes to it, are you willing to pass a modest levy increase to continue to the great growth, the quality growth that we have in the state of Minnesota in Wright County?
Everybody's writing up there, you see that? Dan Vick, we're going to start with you.
Oh, I didn't finish writing, but okay.
Okay. Well, we'll see how good you are on your feet, guy. Come on.
You're a quick study, Dan.
Yeah, growth will come. I'd like to slow it down as much as possible. I think our taxes are already pretty steep here now in Wright County. So I would choose not to do that. I would look for ways to cut, and I can't tell you, Joe, what I'm willing to cut yet. I'd have to talk and go and see what's running at too expensive for us right now to take. So I can't just start cutting anything until I see what can be cut. And like in Delano, every time I try to save a little bit of money, I'd say, well, let's go here. We don't have the money for that. Well, then there's another pot of money somewhere. And I didn't know where all that came from, but there's always another pot that would interrupt me when I was trying to cut costs. So I got to see what the county's like. For a guy that, when I was in the city council, you got 2 meetings a month, and maybe a few hours you can go there and look at the monies, but it's really tough to take it all in that little bit of time when they got a full-time bookkeeper and accountant and everybody there. So what I'm getting at is you don't know where the monies are all at yet. Until you get there, you can't answer that question. So, thank you.
Okay, so that's one part of his question.
Yeah.
The second
I
part
didn't get it
is,
all written down.
if you don't believe that there's areas that you can cut, are you willing to increase the levy?
Well, I kind of
Any of the levies?
I said no, because I think you can always get some costs down. You can get the cost down in some way, but I don't know which way to answer that yet. So I would not be willing to increase the levy.
Okay, very good, thank you. Dan?
Well, first of all, from what I understand about the process of budgeting, it starts with all the departments in the county. These departments have to turn in a budget, and the commissioners will work with them on their budgets. If the commissioners, which would be myself included, advise them that we need to cut 1.5% off of our budget this year, you people come up with the ideas, because that's too vast for the commissioners to actually deal with, in my opinion. But when they come up with the ideas, and if they don't come up with the ideas, they have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to do it. That's how I would approach it if we needed to cut. Infrastructure with growth in the county is the most important thing. Highway 12 has 17,000 cars a day going through Delano. We do not have a highway to handle that. Charlie Burrell's been working on this for I don't know how many years, but he's been working with MnDOT to try to get that improved. Improvement to the infrastructure has to come ahead of the game, not after the fact. And if you improve the Highway 12 corridor ahead of the game, you're going to see more growth in business, small business, that will support your tax base.
Now ask you the second part of that question.
I was afraid of that.
So, all right, so if infrastructure is what you feel is vastly important, and I think many might agree with you, that's an expensive item. So, if we're going to get it done and we can't get enough from the state or whatever other areas we can get it from, and we have to pay for it, either we're going to have to cut drastically or we're going to have to increase a levy. If you can't find enough to cut, are you willing to increase the levy?
No.
Okay. It's a simple yes or no question, people, right? We'll see how that can all play out. Jason?
You know, questions like this are very squishy by design. Not that Joe is being cynical, but it is a very difficult question because it's a moving target in the end. Are we talking about increasing the levy, or are we saying that as property taxes, property values go up, the carrying capacity necessarily for the county goes up? Necessarily, funding does increase. So what is it exactly we're talking about here? Having said that, and as we've seen collectively on the Delano City Council, we have some of the members here, and of course myself, I know that we need to be anticipatory for challenges, and if we're going to have to increase the levy per se, or something like this, it better benefit the most people. I don't want to have to pick winners and losers. Because when I see Highway 12 getting improved and things like this, there's two things going on there. It's not just, or several things going on there. It's not just that the capacity is increased, or we also have economic development will take place. It's a lot safer road. As a person who served on the Highway 12 Coalition, when Marlena Dietrich's father came, and I was there that day, a month, 6 weeks after her daughter died, that was hard to listen to. And we need to think about those kinds of things and the effect on all of us if we just intend to wring our hands over spending. Nobody wants to see the taxes go up in the end, but we're here to make hard choices. We're here to make hard choices, not easy ones. We're not here to collect bouquets. Sometimes we have to avoid the brickbats too.
All right, very good. Mike?
Well, I'd like to see any tax increase go along with the percentage of growth in businesses and residents. So then the citizens wouldn't feel the increase as much. I don't want to go too far down the road with hypothetical and speculation in my business that hasn't served well. But what I would say is that the growth that could come, we hope for it, and we want to help develop the businesses and whatever we need. But something to keep in mind for all of us up here is when we start office in January, the 2021 budget has already been set. So we're not going to get into that until beginning or middle of 2021 for the 2022 budget. So again, we're not going to be on an island. We're going to have the help of other commissioners there to help in the decision making. But I don't want to get pigeonholed into saying yes or no on if I'm going to vote for an increase in that situation. Thank you.
Very good. Honestly, I think, where's Joe? I think Joe knew exactly what he was asking you, because that's the kind of thing anyone in these kinds of offices, your office, his office, our own offices, our own home budgets, sometimes we have to make those really hard decisions. And so we just have to decide, you know, the what and the how. But anyway, so very good. We can take one more question.
Yep. Potentially 90 minutes or 2 minutes. 90 seconds or 2 minutes, right? I've got a yes or no and definitely a question that and two potentially yes or no. So I'm going to, you make that decision whether or not, how did I say? Kip Christensen, Monticello. And yes, I'm here because the county commissioners matter for the entire district. I work up at the Capitol. President Trump's Second Amendment and Sportsman Coalition Director. That leads me to one of my yes or no's. How would you have voted on the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution that went before the county earlier this year? 2, have you ever stiffed a vendor? 3, what are your relationships like at the state capitol with the people who we do work with, like Joe, other people at the legislature? What are those relationships like? That's the longer portion. So, Second Amendment, sanctuary resolution, have you ever stiffed a vendor, and what are your relationships like at the state level? Because not all funding needs to come from the local level. We're right in the middle of the bonding session.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
Don't go too far away, because you might have to get back in here.
Absolutely, I'm right here.
All right, so, thank you. We are back to Dan, I believe. Darn, huh?
Let me
So-
clarify, did he say stiff a vendor?
That's exactly what he said.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's take that first one because it's not really related to the others. Have you ever stiffed a vendor, yes or no?
No.
Jason?
No.
Mike?
Kip, can you clarify that question?
Have you ever not paid your bill
No.
to a vendor? Dan? No. You've probably all had it happen to you, however. All right, so that's one, right, Kurt? Or Kip, sorry. And then how would you have voted on the Trump Second Amendment?
It was a yes/no question, I think, too.
Yes. Would you have supported it or not? So, Dan?
Yes.
Yes, I would have.
Yes.
I would have expanded and been a constitutional county, but yes, I would have voted yes on that.
Okay. And the third was?
Sorry about that, ma'am.
That's okay.
What are your relationships like with the people at the state capitol, whether that's legislators, staff, the people that help with this bonding situation? We need to work with our legislators both here and around the state through the bonding process and the like. How do you think you're going to work on that?
Very good. Dan, we're going to let you jump
Thank
right
you.
back in. Yeah.
Actually, my closest ally at the state capitol is Senator Anderson. We've been friends for 45, a long time, 40 years. He would be the go-to person. When this COVID thing came, Bruce and I were texting back and forth right away about it, about what the governor was doing. Because I was really concerned for the people in our district. And he did a good job of responding to me right away when I did text him. These all took place about 11 o'clock at night. So he would be my first ally at the Capitol.
Jason?
Sure. Well, I can certainly speak to that. One of the unstated not necessarily requirements, but it's certainly a great benefit to county residents. Do you have a relationship with your elected officials above you? I can say that I've been friends with Joe McDonald for many years, certainly a good acquaintance of Senator Bruce Anderson, and have talked to, and I'm friendly with all the other representatives. I've certainly talked to Congressman Emmer. He's a neighbor some 4 blocks away, and I find that I share the values and many of the policy views of those elected representatives. As a councilman for the last 6 years, I've taken an active role to do things to help our city that would require perhaps visits to the Capitol. I've been there, I go there multiple times each year. This year is the first one that I haven't gone because of COVID-19. I've been on the Transportation Alliance meetings every year, and I've had opportunities to put questions to Governor Walz. I had 1 minute with Governor Walz. It was just after I got elected. You know what I told him? Do something about Highway 12. It's the most dangerous 2-lane road in Minnesota. Having those relationships with Joe and Bruce and Marion and the other representatives is something that helps carry forward things for the county, because what the public doesn't understand is that the county is the follow-through and the endpoint for so many of things, health and human services, public health, the VA, which was not even mentioned at all tonight. So much VA money goes right through county. But having those working relationships with your elected officials is important.
All right, thank you, Jason. Mike?
Well, I'd say I have a pretty positive relationship. First of all, with Joe McDonald. Last Thursday, he was at my fundraiser at Cal Brand, so I'd say that's pretty positive. And Bruce Anderson, also in 2020, something that happened at the sheriff's office where I was transferred for political reasons and it got around the public. They didn't like it. They reached out to the elected officials, and Joe and Bruce took the time to have a discussion with me about that that interpersonnel move at the sheriff's office. So that's recent, that's honest, accurate, happened in 2020. That's where we're at, and I hope to make Joe's event this Thursday. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Mike. Dan?
Yeah, I believe I have a good relationship with Joe, Bruce, Tom. Joe hired me and he paid me as his vendor, so that was good. So he must have been happy and we get along. I rode around the last parade here in Delano with Bruce Anderson. I had to give him a ride up to, or his wife a ride up to his car. I think it's a very good working relationship with all them guys, so yes.
All right, very good, thank you. That is all the questions we're going to be able to have time to take. So I would ask each of you now that you just got through having to give us a big, long dissertation, but for concluding remarks, what do you want us to know in the next 2 minutes, knowing we're going to cast votes on August 11th? And I think we'll start with Jason. This is your concluding remarks. You have 2 minutes to tell us whatever you want us to know about you before the primary.
Sure, of course. I want to thank those in attendance that came today and those listening on the radio or on live stream for KRWC 1360 in Buffalo. As the voters in attendance and those that will read about this forum in the next days ahead can gather, the issues we were asked to ponder and answer to are important and will affect the economic life of everyone in the county in the months ahead. While the larger issues of economic security seem like they are merely to be decided in the halls of Congress or perhaps in St. Paul, elected officials at county clearly have an impact on your economic planning, be it at your business, your place of work, your farm, or your kitchen table. Overspending and high taxes affect those decisions. Your government can help facilitate economic activity, but are limited in effect. And in the end, whatever is decided, in the end, we're taking from one taxpayer and giving it to another to do that. We depend on our own efforts to make our way in the world and look after our families and pray for those with greater responsibility than us outside of Wright County to make the wisest decisions. Therefore, it's imperative to elect those candidates with definable experience, demonstrated wisdom to be the next county commissioner for Southern Wright County. I would ask for your support and vote in the weeks ahead for the primary August 11th, as well as in November, because in the end, experience matters.
Thank you very much, Jason. Mike?
I'll refer to my business card here in my closing remarks. It's small, it's got a good message, I'll go over it. Honest, approachable, fiscally responsible. So honest, I'll refer to, brought a prop with, my ring of keys. I carry this with every day to work for 27 years. Represents Township Hall keys, City Hall keys, and Fire Hall keys, as well as private business keys. These are given to me by the managers of these buildings. They trust me when they are not in the building. Approachable, I have people that call me and come to my house. First thing they say is, Mike, I know you got moved, you're patrolling St. Michael, but what do you think of this? That's approachable. Fiscally responsible, the card itself. I paid my own money for a professional photographer that may or may not be here tonight to take my picture, and paid my own money for the card, as it says on the back, prepared and paid for by Ketchmark for Commissioner Committee. And I challenge my opponents to do the same with their business cards. But I look forward to bringing my people skills to the position of commissioner. I'll get back to whoever has a question or a concern in some way, shape, or form. I don't have an agenda. I'll be a good listener and we'll have a good, respectful conversation. Like past commissioners Russick and Mattson said that are endorsing me, we need a commissioner with common sense. Thanks again. One thing to clarify with this primary election is you can only vote for one candidate. Some people still think you can vote for two and the top two move on. But it's important. Vote for one, August 11th. Thanks again. Good night.
Thanks, Mike. Dan?
I want to be your guys' commissioner. This is mainly about money, your money. I will treat it like that. I think actions speak louder than words. Like this campaign, I've been outspent over 100 to 1 with my own money. I've never asked for a donation. And I think if you're gonna go in there spending thousands of dollars before a primary, what are you gonna do when you get to be a commissioner? I will work hard for all the citizens, because I won't owe anybody nothing, because I'm doing it on my own buck. So I put my own business cards out there too, and I paid every penny of it. I didn't ask for any fundraising parties. I will work hard for every citizen of Wright County. Thank you very much. Vote for Vic on May 11th and November 3rd. Thank you.
Very good, thank Dan. Dan Bravender?
Some of the items have been addressed already, but I will go over them again. On my card, it lists my platform. It's very short. I bring strong values to the office of responsible private property rights. The continued development of the Highway 12 corridor. That doesn't mean housing developments. That means the infrastructure. It needs to be done. Third, a strong focus on agriculture in our community. We have a variety of agriculture in Wright County, from row crop farming to flowers to vegetables. Agriculture is a foundation for our economy. If that does not succeed, we all fail. That needs to be supported. Fourth, informing residents regularly. I've already said this. My commitment is monthly town meetings at 3 different locations in District 5, so the people know what is happening in Wright County government. Town meetings are a thing of the past. I want to bring them back. I think that's the way that we need to communicate, person to person. Finally, I want to be an advocate for Wright County residents to accomplish your goals and your dreams as you live in Wright County and keep government out of the way of this. I ask for your vote on August 11th and November. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Dan. All right, well, that is going to conclude our official portion of this meeting. I want to take a couple of minutes to just, first of all, thank everyone for coming, particularly thank our candidates who have put forth a ton of time to get ready for this and to continue. I keep walking in front of you, I'm sorry.
They're all very gracious.
And I also would like to thank the city for making it possible for us to use this space, as well as to Jackson, who is virtually donating his time, I think, right? Do I have to write a check, Jackson? I don't know. Okay, good. And also the Legion, who allowed us to use their chairs and their tables and all the rest. So it's always a team effort in Delano, as I'm sure it is in your own communities. It's also an amazingly great team effort by our chamber. And I've held lots of positions on our chamber, from little bitty ones to the president. I've done this, or attempted to do this, for several go-rounds and enjoyed it thoroughly. And I think it's so important that we be, as several of the candidates have said, to be involved. And I think our chamber has been doing such an amazing job, especially since Joanne has come on board. Joanne has been a breath of sunshine and has really helped our chamber grow and do a lot of new wonderful things that we should have been doing years ago. So if you want to get involved in a really active, vibrant chamber, this is it, guys, and she's your main contact. So you get a hold of Jo at the chamber office, and she'll get you all set up. I don't know if we've forgotten anything else. No, Josh has been a great timer. Oh, they did. Okay, great. I didn't know where those came from. I thought they weren't going to be raised up, so it's great they are. And there'll be a couple other forums that'll come up before the year is out, because we've got a couple other things that are going to be happening this November. But do remember to vote in the primary on Tuesday, August 11th. Mike, I did have that wrong, so I appreciate your, correcting that. We all get to vote for one, but the two top vote getters are who will be on the ballot. So, and other than that, I just want to thank you all for coming out and spending time with us tonight. So,
Becky?
yes.
Thank you, too. You did a great job.
Oh, you're welcome, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only other thing I didn't remind you of is that the candidates will hang around if you have any questions or you want to chat one-on-one, and of course, they've got their information on the back tables.